Imagine it's the dead of winter. A bitter wind howls outside, and snow is piling up against the door. You're inside, but the cold seeps through the walls, chilling you to the bone. Now, imagine you're in a drafty medieval hut with no central heating, no insulated windows, and no thermal underwear. How did people survive? You might think of a roaring fireplace, and you're partially right. But the real secret, the one thing that kept entire families from freezing, was something far more ingenious and a little bit surprising. It wasn't just about making heat. It was about holding on to every last bit of it. And the key to that was a single piece of furniture that doubled as a communal survival pod. We're talking about the bed. But not just any bed. The medieval bed was the heart of the home, especially in winter. Forget the idea of a private bedroom. For most people, from peasants to the lower gentry, the entire family would pile into one massive bed. This wasn't about a lack of space. It was a deliberate and brilliant survival strategy. Think of it like a human-powered heating system. Body heat is a powerful thing, and when you combine the warmth of 2 adults and several children all huddled together, you create a pocket of warmth that can make the difference between a miserable night and a comfortable one. The more bodies, the more heat. It was simple, effective, and cost absolutely nothing. But it wasn't just about cramming everyone together. The bed itself was a technological marvel of its time, designed specifically for maximum heat retention. The frame, often made of heavy, thick wood, would be enclosed with heavy floor-length curtains. These weren't just for privacy. They were essential insulation. When drawn, these curtains created a room within a room, a tiny, enclosed space that trapped all that precious body heat. The air inside the curtains could be significantly warmer than the air in the rest of the drafty room. It was a microclimate, a warm little cave to weather the storm of a medieval winter night. Let's look at the mattress. You might be picturing a lumpy sack of straw, and for the poorest, that was often the case. Straw is actually a decent insulator. But for those who could afford a bit more, mattresses were stuffed with whatever they could get their hands on. Wool, feathers, even horsehair. These materials are excellent at trapping air, which is the key to insulation. A thick feather bed was the ultimate luxury, not just because it was soft, but because it was incredibly warm. It would mold around you, cocooning you in a layer of insulated air. You'd sink into it, and the bed itself would help keep the cold from seeping up from below. And then there were the blankets, or coverlets, as they were often called. These weren't the lightweight duvets we have today. We're talking multiple layers of heavy, dense wool. Wool is a miracle fiber. It stays warm even when it's damp, which was a huge advantage in homes that were often humid and cold. Families would pile on as many layers as they could find. Sometimes, they'd even throw their cloaks and other daytime clothes on top for extra weight and warmth. Some people even slept with their pet dogs on the bed, adding another little furnace to the pile. Every little bit of heat counted. So you have the communal body heat, the insulating curtains, the thick mattress, and layers of heavy wool. This entire system worked together to create a warm, survivable space. But there was one more trick up their sleeve. A little bit of medieval technology that acted as a personal heater, the bed warmer. This was a long-handled metal pan, usually made of brass or copper, with a hinged lid. Before getting into bed, you'd fill it with hot coals or embers from the fireplace. Then, you'd run the pan between the sheets. The metal would radiate a gentle, long-lasting heat, warming up the cold bedding so you weren't met with an icy shock when you first climbed in. It was like a primitive electric blanket, and it was an absolute game-changer. Getting into a pre-warmed bed on a freezing night must have felt like pure luxury. Now, you might be thinking, what about the fire? Didn't they just keep the fireplace going all night? For most people, the answer was no. Fuel, especially firewood, was a precious resource. Peasants often had rights to gather fallen wood, but they couldn't just chop down trees as they pleased. They had to make their supply last the entire winter. Burning the fire all night long was a luxury few could afford, and was also a significant fire hazard in a house made of wood and thatch. The common practice was to let the fire die down to embers overnight. The main goal of the fire in the evening was to cook the meal and provide a brief period of warmth before everyone retreated to the real source of overnight heat, the bed. This communal sleeping arrangement had social implications too. It reinforced the family unit. The bed was the center of family life, not just for sleeping, but for storytelling, for comforting sick children, and for simply being together. In a world that was often harsh and unforgiving, the warmth and closeness of the family bed provided a sense of security and belonging. It was a shared space where the lines between individual and family blurred. Privacy as we know it today was a concept reserved for the very wealthy. For everyone else, survival and community were intertwined, and nowhere was this more evident than in the family bed. Let's step back and consider the ingenuity here. Without any modern science of thermodynamics, medieval people understood the core principles of insulation and heat transfer. They knew that a small enclosed space is easier to heat than a large one. They knew that trapped air is a fantastic insulator. They knew that sharing body heat is an effective way to stay warm. It was practical knowledge born from centuries of experience and the simple, brutal necessity of surviving the cold. This method was so effective that it persisted for hundreds of years. The Great Enclosed bed, or box bed, was a common feature in homes across Europe, from the humblest farmhouses to the slightly more comfortable homes of merchants. Even in castles, while a lord and lady might have their own private chamber, their bed would still be a heavily curtained fortress against the cold drafts that whistled through the stone corridors. The bed wasn't just a place to sleep, it was the primary tool for winter survival. So next time you turn up your thermostat or snuggle under your lightweight goose-down comforter, take a moment to think about your medieval ancestors. They didn't have buttons and dials to control their environment. They had to use their wits, their resources, and each other to make it through the night. The humble bed, that enclosed, curtained, multi-person cocoon of warmth, wasn't just a piece of furniture. It was the heart of the home, a masterpiece of low-tech engineering, and the single most important thing that kept medieval families from freezing in the long, dark, and cold winters. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the simplest solutions, rooted in community and shared warmth, are the most effective. Thanks for watching. If you found this glimpse into the past interesting, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more surprising stories from history. We'll see you in the next one.